all of a sudden they...
Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call this meeting of the Town of Wolfeboro Zoning Board of Adjustment to order. We have one case for us this evening. Sorry we're a little bit delayed. We were a little bit, spent a little extra time at the site visit. Sarah, would you act as clerk pro tem for this meeting?
Fred, appointment of officers first on the agenda, as we are in the new year.
Well, we have a vacancy, so we thought maybe it might be better to wait until we got, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Wasn't expecting to do so. So it's good news, bad news. We'll miss her. But the Board of Selectmen is now looking for one more member. So we thought we'd wait before we elect officers until then. And I've asked Sarah if she would act as our clerk for tonight's meeting, and she's agreed.
Okay. I'll read the notice. Notice is hereby giving that the Zoning Board of Adjustment will meet on Monday, May 7th, 2018 at 7 p.m. in the Great Hall at Wolfeboro Town Hall to conduct the following business. Tax map number 203-75, applicant Thomas Shaughnessy. Case number 10-SE-18. Public hearing for a special exception under Article 6, Section 175-107 of the Wolfeboro Planning and Zoning Ordinance to allow for the operation for auto parts sales on the second floor utilizing 3,350.74 square feet, where only 3,000 square feet is permitted. This property is located at 1 Bay Street. A site visit will be held at approximately 6:35 p.m. prior to the meeting. Copies were sent to Town Manager, Codes Officer, Police Chief, Fire Chief, Conservation Commission, Public Works Department, Municipal Electric, Department of Water and Sewer, Planning Department File, Shaughnessy, Durgan Stables, Inc., Bayside Village Condos, Morgan, Wolf Trap Realty, LLC, LRP&S Properties, LLC, Morados Politano Family Trust, Huggins Hospital, Frederick R. Gagney, Revocable Trust, Mill Street Investment, LLC. Present at the viewing was myself, Luke Frodenberg, Dave Senecal, Chairman Fred Tedeschi, Tim Cronin, Tom Shaughnessy, and Realtor Fay Moore.
Thank you, Sarah. I'd like to introduce our new member, Mr. Freudenberg. Welcome aboard. We are only 4 members at this point because, as I just mentioned, Susan Razor decided that she had to move to Texas. So, Dave, would you be able to act as a member tonight? So I'm going to appoint Dave Senecal as a member so we have a full board tonight. First item tonight, Mr. Shaughnessy, would you approach the microphone, identify yourself, and go through your application, please?
Thomas Shaughnessy.
Could you pull your microphone down? It's just because they're taping it and they can't hear it at all if you don't talk into it.
Thomas Shaughnessy.
Thank you.
Perfect. That's okay.
And we're here for the special exception request on 1 Bay Street. Second story.
Now, would you tell us a little bit about the request? You don't have to read the whole thing, but go through each of the items.
The request, I believe, is the permitted uses for 3,000 feet, and I believe it's 3,550.74 feet of space upstairs,
Okay.
which is less than 20%, which is about 20% more
Okay.
that's in the city plan or the town plan.
Okay. And then your facts. Okay. Would you then go through very briefly the items that are 1 through 8 here?
Fact supporting
Suitability.
site requests.
Yeah.
Number 1, the building stays as built.
And your use?
My use is to store or to retail, and it's storage of parts that are for sale, and they're classic auto parts.
Okay, and your retail operations will be open to the public, or how do you?
Retail operations are not open to the public, no hours posted. It's all via telephone and internet.
Okay. And then if I wanted to buy a part from you, how would I do that? I'd call you
You
up,
would-
and you would ship it to me?
Contact it to me, and I'd ship via USPS, FedEx, UPS, or if it's a heavy part, it would come with a freight company,
Okay.
whether it's FedEx Freight or DHL or
So you would not invite me to come by your premises?
No.
I'm trying to help you present the application here.
no.
Good, thank you. And any impact on the neighborhood?
There'll be no impact on the neighborhood, no foot traffic at all.
So would you have delivery vans then come pick it up, or do you bring the?
Just standard carriers.
Okay,
Or
so you
I would,
have-
yeah, I would take it out with my truck or would go to a standard carrier.
Okay,
The largest impact would ever be is a pallet of parts possibly. And then just a regular freight carrier would pick it up, but primarily it's FedEx, UPS, or I use the post office quite extensively. And I
Okay.
usually drop things off because I'm not there regularly, so I can't sit around all day.
okay. So you feel there's no additional impact to the neighborhood? There would be just a few trucks showing up every once in a while, and,
Once a week or
okay.
very infrequently.
All right, and number 3 is, it says there'd be no undue nuisance or serious hazard to pedestrian or vehicular traffic. You have a parking lot there.
Parking lot with 20-some-odd spaces, if I'm not mistaken.
So any loading and unloading would be done in through that lot and not parking on the street?
Correctly,
Okay.
correct. There's no parking on the street, so everything would be done in and out of the property itself.
Okay, and then public services, you have water, sewer there, and
Nothing's required.
so you don't need any new,
There'll be no
Electric
new
work.
plumbing, there'll be no new electrical, there'll be basically racks that are constructed. Metal racks will just be installed upstairs in the big rectangular space.
okay? It looks like your site plan is not going to change the exterior at all?
Exterior will not be changed, there'll be no signage, there'll be nothing done except the building just improved and painted because
Okay,
of
so you're not-
years of neglect.
And you would have a sign on the outside of the building to
Absolutely
advertise
not.
yours, okay? Sarah?
Could I ask just one quick question?
Sure.
Regarding the exterior, I just wanted to clarify. We had had an indication that perhaps you would have automobiles inside, and you did say at the site viewing that you would not be foreseeing that to happen. Is that
Well,
correct?
there's no access to it right now, no.
Right, well, that was my question, because there is a loading dock by that garage doors,
Yeah, but
and
that-
you would
can't-
have to put some
There's
type
no
of...
access.
Right, you'd have to put some type of ramp or something there, so I
No.
just wanted to confirm that. Thank you so much.
Okay, then the integrity of the neighborhood, you mentioned here there's a Napa Auto Parts store across the street. So your operation,
Well, at least they have foot traffic, I don't even have foot traffic, so it's a similar type business, but my items are so eclectic and rarely purchased for such specific applications, and it's not a local business, it's national and international business.
okay. So you're feeling on number 7, the impact on the property values, it would certainly not cause a decline in the value. You're going to improve the exterior of the building?
There's
And-
nothing that's going to happen that's currently there now, except myself coming and going rarely.
But you'll be maintaining the outside, you'll be painting it?
It's been neglected for years. Now, I'll improve it first, and then it will be continually maintained.
Okay. And your structure, there was a business there? There's always been a business there? This has never been residential, so you're not converting a use to a new
Not
use?
converting use, yeah.
Okay. All right, Mr. Senecal, Dave?
I have a clarification. On the application, on the notice, it says he's going to utilize 3,350.74 square feet on the second floor, where only 3,000 is allowed. And then on number 8, and also before, it says 550 square feet, .74.
It says additional feet. The word before it says additional feet. Requesting the use of an additional
Yeah.
550.
But it says here that the second floor is,
3,550,
right, and it says you're allowed 3,000.
correct.
So that tells me there's 350 square feet, not 550. Is there something I'm missing?
I don't think so. I think that the request is for 3550.74. I believe that that's an error on the typo on the notice.
Thank you.
It's an increase of 200 square feet above what was put on the notice.
So
That
it's
makes it-
3550, not 3350.
Thank you.
Correct.
Okay.
So
The,
3350 is an incorrect figure.
that's correct.
Thank
And-
you.
Just, Matt, if I could ask Matt a question?
Sure, yes.
That entire 3550.74 is second floor space. It includes nothing on the first floor.
That's my understanding, yes.
Is that correct?
That is correct. And the elevator was taken out of the usable space there. So the elevator footprint was taken out of the,
Yes.
And any access that's on the first floor to the second floor, we wouldn't treat as part of the space's use.
Any other questions?
Very clear.
Thank you.
I have a quick question for the applicant, if I may.
Sure.
Are there any employees expected here beyond yourself?
there'll be no employees.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak in favor of the application? Anyone wish to speak against the application? All right, seeing no further folks, any other questions for the applicant? Sarah?
Yes, I have a question, and I'm not certain if it's, perhaps it's for Matt. We are looking at this point at a special exception for the second floor. If at some time in the future, someone wanted to utilize the first floor, I'm just confused for a little bit. Is it a piece of property cannot have more than one variance or not more than one special exception? Because it would seem to me they would have to come back and get,
Yeah, so if the first floor were converted to a use that was not a permitted use, either a special exception, well, and remember, a special exception is by definition, it is a permitted use. That's important to keep
Right.
in mind with certain conditions. But if the first floor use were to be converted to something that's non-permitted, then they would have to come in for a variance. And I would argue that both a special exception and a variance could exist on this property together as long as relief is provided by the zoning board.
okay, thank you
So-
for that clarification.
Yeah, absolutely.
And retail was the prior use in the first floor?
That's correct.
I do have one other question. What is going to happen with the first floor? What's going to be down there? Wasn't that hard of a question?
I have a feeling that someone's left me multiple dead batteries in here as a joke.
If it doesn't
No.
work, can one of these
I can actually put
reach?
right up there. I just want to see if I can get to work right now.
When I purchased the property, that had been a tenant that had staged properties that was in there, and she just moved out like 2 days ago. So this was a little unexpected. When I had submitted the application, I intended her to stay. So I don't have a direct answer for you. I would like to lease it. I don't need it. And I don't know what its future usage is. I would assume business offices or something.
So there'd be separate entrances for the downstairs and one for the upstairs.
Right. I'd have to get through it somehow to get to the upstairs. But this is all new. So when I had submitted the application, I had not anticipated her departing.
Okay. Thank you.
I have another question for
Sure,
Matt.
Sarah?
There are two, there's the entrance that used to be for the True Value store, and then there is an exit in the back. But if the first floor is separated from the second floor, any type of fire entrance and exit for the second floor would be dealt with by the fire department?
It would all be handled during the code review process for a building permit or change of occupancy. I'm not sure what modifications are scheduled to be made, but it would be handled during one of those two processes. So I'm not sure which one. It could be a simple change of occupancy on the first floor, but likely there'd be some building reconstruction necessary, so it would be reviewed by Deputy Chief Zadi during that process.
I was just trying to be cautious because I believe it's Ferrari parts upstairs, and I would imagine if there was a second business on the first floor, then the second floor would want to be in some way segregated from the first floor. And then that would raise the question in my mind about safe entrance and access for fire, as well as practical access.
Yeah, and I should point out too that even regardless of the conversion or final use of the first floor, Mr. Shaughnessy's proposed use for the second floor will require a change of occupancy, and that's where the code review will kick in. So I expect that any access to the second floor would be addressed as part of that process, which presumably would happen right after this meeting if this is approved by the zoning board.
Thank you, Matt.
Yep.
Any other questions? All right. I'll close the public hearing. Discussion? Or shall we go through the items one by one?
Probably go through the items one by one.
Okay. Who would like to start?
I'll start with it's site suitability that the specific site is an appropriate location for the proposed use or structure. This includes adequate usable space, adequate access, absence of environmental constraints, floodplain, etc. I would say that this criteria is met because number 3 is inappropriate. Number 1 is met, very adequate space because he's coming in and asking us for the use of additional space. And adequate access was just addressed, I believe, adequately to my way of thinking by Matt, who says that there will be a review.
Any change in the first floor entrance to the second floor would require a permit.
Right.
So that would resolve any potential changes.
Yes. Thank you for expanding on my adequate access.
You're welcome. Any other comments on number 1?
Very clear.
Okay. Number 2, on immediate neighborhood impact.
I think that's been met in that there's be no foot traffic, no posted signs, business hours, that kind of thing. It's all on the second floor.
It has always been a business, and this business does not appear to have, from the representations made, would not increase traffic at all. In fact, it's a business that basically has virtually no traffic, which is good, okay? So we find no adverse impact on the immediate neighborhood. Number 3, on no undue nuisance or serious hazard to pedestrian or vehicular traffic. I think I noted as we were over there that there is a large parking lot, that there is plenty of room for vehicles and for trucks that would be picking up and dropping off parts. So the foot traffic that would be walking along the street would not be impacted whatsoever here, from my point of view.
Minimal traffic.
Minimal at all? Okay.
Indeed, there would be less traffic, both pedestrian and vehicular, than there was in the previous business.
All right. Number 4, availability of public services and facilities. This has always been retail space. The public services are already at the site, and the proposed use to me would not have any further impact than what was already there. Certainly no impact on parks or schools. The street appears adequate for retail, or for storage, actually. Water and sewer are there. Any other observations?
No, it would appear that stormwater drainage was probably addressed originally when the parking lot was installed.
Appropriate is the site plan. The parking scheme appears to be adequate parking. Traffic circulation to be no change from the prior. Traffic patterns. Open space, there's no plan to convert any space whatsoever to any use that's not already there. There's no proposed fencing or screening or landscaping that would be needed. There's no neighbors really except the commercial across the street. There'd be no signs on the outside of the building for this particular use. There will be some commercial vehicles, but there are already commercial vehicles available that use that. And there'll be no additional exterior lighting, so there'll be no lighting impact. Anything else on any other comments? 6, the immediate neighborhood integrity.
Yeah, I think that we saw that. It is a business area, no foot traffic, no other employees other than himself. So I don't know how that will change the immediate neighborhood at all. I think that's been met.
Any other observations, comments? Okay. Number 7, impact on property values.
I think that the impact on the property values actually will be a positive thing because the building has been vacant for an extended period of time, and the exterior of the building has somewhat declined. So I think it would actually have a positive impact on property values in the neighborhood to have that brought up to snuff again.
Any other observations on number 7? Okay. On number 8, the proposed use of structure is consistent with the spirit of the ordinance and the intent of the master plan. The master plan views this as commercial space. The addition of a little over 500 square foot in an existing structure that would allow for commercial use doesn't appear to me to be do violence to our intent of the master plan. Any other?
Very low impact.
Yeah.
I would think that any thing that might have been not in keeping with the master plan would have, he's not enlarging the building for this number of square feet. It already exists, so I would think that that would be met.
All right. Any other comments? I'll entertain a motion.
Yeah, I'll move that we approve the special exception for Thomas Shaughnessy, tax map 203-75, case number 10-SE-18, to allow for 3,550.74 square feet be utilized on the second floor at 1 Bay Street.
I'll second that.
All right. Any further discussion?
Yeah, 3550.74, I believe is the right number, if I understood what I was asking. Thank you.
And it's
Yes.
subject to the 6 conditions that are in the planner's menu, planner's memo?
That's
Are you
fine.
familiar with those conditions? You haven't seen them? I'll read them then.
Can I just say, when I called this person to ask him where he was when we were waiting for him, he said that he did not receive any notice, and so I'm wondering if perhaps he didn't get a packet at all.
Oh, sure. We'll have a 5-minute recess. If you need longer, let me know, Mr. Shaughnessy.
Another doorstop. Another doorstop. So don't I. Yeah, you got it when you were selectman.
Sell your house and move in that quick.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she said,
I really like to.
when she called me and said, guess what, the house sold this. Are you surprised?
No, don't get rid of it.
She was helping.
You're gonna need it once in a while to.
It's a quick turnaround. I mean, her kids are Texas, facing the same thing.
I was just thinking, I don't know if
Chicago
Susan
and Alabama.
enters in or not.
I've got a southern, northern place. Yes, is there any objection to reopening the public hearing? No?
None.
The public hearing is reopened.
Do you want a roll call vote for that?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we reopen the public hearing. Do we have a second?
Second. All in favor?
Yeah.
Dave, Luke? Sarah?
Yes.
Okay. The hearing is reopened.
And I've reviewed the 6 conditions, and I agree to the 6 conditions.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, so the public hearing is closed. Let's continue our deliberation. So the
Yes, Sarah did.
Sarah seconded it, subject to including conditions number 1 through 6.
Yes.
I agreed to that.
Okay. I'll call for a vote. All in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion is carried. Have your special exception. We look forward to seeing a beautiful new building, or new exterior.
And the fact that he didn't receive a notice, the thing about the wait period, if he starts something, it should be telling him.
And any work that you do is subject to permits. I'm sure Matt has already counseled you on that. So give him a call before you do anything.
Mr. O'Shaughnessy, did you get any information at all? You said you didn't get a notice about the, you didn't? We perhaps... Yeah, well, I just was asking because I saw one place it said Southampton, someplace else it said Seabrook. Perhaps we don't have the correct address? Okay. Well, it was fortunate you had the number on the application, so that,
And you were listening for your cell phone to ring.
it went to voicemail.
Oh.
Yeah.
The abutters list submitted shows the Seabrook address, and the mailing went to, actually, the mailing went to 81 Main Street, Southampton, New Hampshire. That was what was submitted, and we didn't receive any certified mail back. We have a certified slip that proves that that's the address we sent it to. Okay?
We're glad you came, and we're glad you
It all worked out.
all worked out. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Folks, have a good night.
Okay, we have some minutes to review. Somewhere.
Hey, Tim,
No, I'm just saying if you need to leave, you don't have to stay. That's what I'm supposed to say. Yes, that's fine.
Thank you. Okay, we have the minutes to review for the meeting of April 2nd. Page 1. I'd like to note that Mr. Hodder was excused from the meeting. Anything else on page 1? Going once, going twice. Page 2. Second line, I think the word "how" should be eliminated. So it should read other than legal advice or legal advice on how things would be interpreted. On how? Okay, I'll accept that. Next one I have is paragraph 3. Office of State, capital S. Second line, the master plan is a planning lowercase p document. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fifth line, decisions on zoning and subdivision matters and other issues. It's not a legal document, comma, but it does provide the basis. And in the motion itself, can we change the words "to deny" to the word "that"? That the motion for rehearing? It's in the motion itself, it was moved by me and seconded by Susan, that the motion for rehearing in the case be denied. And then I also voted in favor of it. I think it's assumed if I move it that I vote, but we ought to record the vote. You never know, that's right. Hank Y, can we say Hank Y left the meeting at this point rather than disconnected? Disconnected sounds a little,
I just said he was connected by phone, so I wasn't
okay.
sure.
Or was Hank Y's telephone? Figure out how to,
Yeah, figure out some, we'll
Yeah,
figure
I'll
out some.
figure out something else. I was kind of at a loss there. That was a new one.
and then alternate Suzanne Ryan and Tim Cronin, or Suzanne Ryan and Tim Cronin, comma, alternates, comma, were seated for the hearing. Page 3.
Fred, I have a question about page 3. When we started this hearing, someplace, I'm not sure where, but I don't remember seeing it when I read the minutes, you discussed the fact that we were going to talk about the signs separately, and I don't see that in here.
I think that should be in here.
I think it's noted under each one where it says Winnipesaukee Winery on this page 4, and it says the 18th,
Yeah, it does, I'm sorry, this,
Yep.
on page 4 in the middle.
and then the entity sign
Right above.
Yeah.
on page 5, where it addresses each one individually.
Yep, thank you.
Matt, there's something that several of us noticed on the winery, the big sign on the front of the building.
Yes?
There's also one on the,
Second sign, yes, as I know now, yeah.
I live up the street from there, and
For some reason, I've never noticed that.
I've never noticed it
I
either.
did notice it now.
It's only 15 feet long and about 1.5 feet high.
I guess we presume everybody's paying attention to their driving.
Yes, Fred, you're a good driver.
Okay, top of page 3, under the second paragraph, under summary of the application, I think it probably should read, the proposed signs will be 12 square foot per sign for each of the 3 signs. Because I want to make it clear that they're proposing each sign is going to be 12 square foot. And then the next paragraph, as noted in the zoning authority section, 1 sign, I put in of 1 square foot is permitted per business. Then 1, 2, 3, 3 paragraphs down, Heidi von Gutz responded, the Antiques Barn sign is included in the historic preservation easement. And drop, and it is. I'm sorry, the,
5 paragraphs up from the bottom
Yeah.
of the page. Just the paragraph before Matt Sullivan responded.
And what did you want in there, Fred?
I would just drop the words, and it is, so it reads, the Antiques Barn sign is included in the historic preservation easement.
And it is in the historic
I would delete the words, and it is.
And it is, get rid of it.
preservation. Okay, we want that in there. Okay.
Can I ask one question on that? Matt, when they had that special exception for the antique sign, did it take pictures of the building? Was there just the one sign in the front? Was that side sign that everybody now notices, was that there when they had that approval given to the building?
So I don't know, but just as a general rule of thumb for everybody, we are outside of the appeal period for this particular application, but we should not be discussing case matter from cases at the prior meeting, because in some cases, we're still in the appeal period for it. So specific questions about the hearing, we probably should hold until after the appeal period is over. But the answer is no. That information, I don't know if that information was included in the appeal to the Board of Selectmen. I'm just not sure. Mr. Freudenberg may know, actually. I'm not sure if the easement was submitted during his time on the Board of Selectmen, but historic barn preservation easement? No? Okay.
I believe, we discussed it, Matt, we discussed at that meeting, I remember because I brought it up, although it isn't in the minutes, that what she's referring to as historic preservation easement on the bond was her tax, that she went to the Board of Selectmen and she got the tax credit for it, but I don't know if that's the exact title.
But they are specific, there are materials included with that submission to the board. Each town, from my understanding, has the ability to request whatever materials they like, I think, under 79D. I just don't know what she submitted, so I'm not sure.
My question is about process, not about
Yeah.
just for the future.
So are those sorts of things included? Is that kind of the question?
During an application to have a special exemption for a historic barn,
Yeah, I don't know.
photographs be there, which would kind of tell you whether or not those signs were there before.
That's a good question. One that I'll write down.
What do they call it? Dave, what do they call it when they give them the taxing? They don't call it a historic preservation.
No, we call it an easement of some type.
Yeah.
2 more paragraphs down, the board discussed the lettering. The second line is not seen until a driver, not a drive. And then in the last one, in the middle line, it says, "will be closer to the house than the bridge." I'm assuming that's the bridge on Trotting Track Road. Be good.
Well, actually, it's the bridge that, it's actually parallel to Route 28. I think the bridge existed because I think Route 28 went there before they moved it. But it's really not on Trotting Track Road, the bridge itself.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. I was just trying to, should we, I mean, I don't feel strongly that we should make it clear as to where it is, but this is something where the question was, is there any obstruction of the view of the highway? And we had insisted that it be 40 foot back from the road. And there was some testimony that stopping at the stop sign, you could look to your left and you would not, this sign would not be in the line of sight. Anyway, the last, after road in the last line should be a comma, and the next to the last word should be sight, S-I-G-H-T.
Excuse me.
Anything else on page 3?
Go home.
Page 4, the first line, the building file does not include a clear approval for the 1810 house.
Fran, I'm not certain whether it should be on this page right after the paragraph 4 where Jerome Holden spoke, or if it was later on when he spoke again, when we asked him a question. But I distinctly remember commenting about this when he talked about the 21-inch lettering coming from some type of a chart or the sizes of signs and letters on a highway where you drove 55 miles an hour. I distinctly remember commenting that a highway with 55 miles an hour was most likely intended to be something like Route 16 or the Spalding Turnpike, not the road coming into town where you're slowing down. I'm not sure, I don't think it's worth going back to the tape to get the exact positioning, as long as it shows up in here, either there or at the bottom of the page, where it said the board agreed to reopen the public hearing for a question to Jerome Holden, who reported about in the speed zone and setback. The recommended sign size is 36, and it may be more appropriate down there. I just don't remember if I said it there or up above when he talked about that chart.
My feeling is it should be down below, down at the end.
That's fine.
Anything else on page 4? Page 5. I think the end of the second line is still smaller than the recommended letter size of 21 inches and the overall sign of 36 square foot. And I think you ought to put in "is needed" to be able to read the sign at the location and at the posted speed limits, at that location and at the posted speed limits. Anything else on page 5? Page 6. Anybody going once, going twice on page 6? Page 7. Anything on page 7? Page 8.
On the bottom motion, do we remember who seconded that motion?
I think we ought to show who the second is. That's a good catch.
Figure that out.
And on the only other question I had was this, the paragraph above that just says the board agreed to the above criteria has been met. It doesn't say because. It's really just copying the list of criteria as required, but it doesn't give any reason why we thought it had been met. Don't we have to?
I brought up to Fred that my recollection, when we agreed, the board whizzed through the criteria. There were no comments, no questions, no deliberation on each of the criteria. You would reopen that public hearing very quickly for one specific question and close the public hearing, and the motion was made.
It was pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
It wasn't one way you went through like tonight, each and every one of the
Maybe we just add a sentence that said the board agreed that each of the criteria,
It's in there.
it's in there.
That's what it
Matt,
says.
it's
The
right
board
there.
agreed with the above
It was
has been met.
a long night, and
Yeah.
Okay.
So suppose we just say the board agreed that each of the above criteria has been met, and I think then we should be in good shape. And then we need to figure out who seconded Suzanne's motion, because honestly, I don't remember.
It might have been me. I just don't remember.
That's it. Any other comments? I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as corrected.
Do we do that, or do we just table them until she figures out who made a second? Shouldn't we table them until the next?
approved with the condition that the second be added and be added into the next set of minutes. Or
Yeah.
the set of minutes.
I move that we approve the minutes, subject to the addition of who seconded Suzanne Ryan's motion.
Second.
Second, motion made, duly seconded. Any comments, discussion? I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Note that our new member, Mr. Freudenberg, abstained, which is appropriate. Thank you. Any further business to come before the board? I'll
Yeah,
entertain a motion to,
I have
sorry.
one comment on the sheet that Matt sent out or gave to us tonight. The only thing I see on here is that A, B, C, D, E, and so forth should be numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 to match the application
Okay.
instead of A, B, C, because that's, somebody at some point is going to get confused between the application and this.
You know what's interesting? I think the application is wrong.
Well,
Yeah. So
whichever one is
we will-
wrong,
we
they
will-
should be the same.
we will look at that.
Okay.
I think the application is wrong.
But we've always taken it 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
So forth, even with a variance. So if it's supposed to be A, B, C, then you need to change your application.
Yep.
We'll
Look
leave,
at
we'll
that.
leave that in your good hands.
Now I'll move we adjourn.
Second?
Aye.
All right.
Anybody object? All in favor? Meeting is adjourned.